Hey gang, it's Tuesday morning transformation, and today is truly a transformational topic and principle that will change every relationship in your life. Most importantly, the relationship with yourself and God inside you. So there's 5 easy steps. How many? Hey Letitia, 5 easy steps to solve arguments in your relationship. So we get into relationships, and when we're in a loving relationship, when we love, we become vulnerable, right? So we try to protect ourselves sometimes, and we get in arguments, and we see from different perspectives, and based on our perspective, we think that that's truth, and we want to stick to that perspective. Yet, what's the probability 2 people can see the same thing and and have totally different perspectives, have totally different impressions of what happened? And yet relationships challenge us the most. You know, the people we love the most are the ones we're most vulnerable to, and those are the relationships that we can get hurt in. You know, I had this buddy, he's been my friend for years, and he was a commander of a police department, and he would go investigate crime scenes, and there'd be all these people that were witnesses. They all saw the crime happen. And he would interview 8 different people, yet 8 people had 8 completely different perspectives. Hey, Matt. So, you know, what's the probability that you're in a relationship, and maybe by gender difference alone, if there's a gender difference, you're going to see from 2 different perspectives? Well, that's probably about 1,000%, right? So what's the probability that you're going to get into a disagreement with your spouse besides 1,000%? Yes, definitely, right? And you may have been through one recently, which is what prompted this. So now that we know that, Deepak Chopra says people seek spirituality when they get tired of suffering. Hey, tomorrow's my birthday, 59. I don't want to suffer anymore. You know, so what spawned all this? Well, most of you people know that, hey, Brett and Carlene and Michael, most people know that my second wife passed away with cancer. And at that moment she took her last breath was like such a tidal wave of emotion I can't even explain to you. But once we got past all that, and once I got to process that, then I realized the acute pain was watching her take her last breath, but the long-term pain and the long-term suffering was how much time did we waste arguing about stupid things. And it wasn't me. You know, I'm a big picture guy. And then I look back and I said, you know what? I want to be different because I went through this. I want to be different because of that experience. And so now when I get into relationships, when I was with Cindy, I thought my primary core value was love. After her passing, I realized my primary core value wasn't love, because if you're in a relationship, you automatically have love. My primary core value became peace, because you're going to have love. But how many times have you had love and you didn't have peace? How many times you've been in a nightmare and there's arguments for days, and it just doesn't feel good, right? It's not good for your self-esteem. It's not good for theirs. You know, it just doesn't work. So now when I get in a relationship, I say, we're not going to stay together because we love each other. We're going to stay together because we have a peaceful relationship and we're able to resolve those conflicts. And so now in a relationship, I create a metaphor where it's like we're in a bubble. There's you, me, and God. There's all these things that can happen out in the world, and we can't always control those. But what we can control is what we allow that gets between us. And if we decide we don't allow any other person, we don't allow any other condition, we don't allow anything else to get inside this bubble, then we'll always have peace. We'll always have love. If any challenges come, we grow together, and then we can create a life together that's full of love and peace. And with God in the middle, it has divinity. So at that moment, after she passed and I came into realization, I made a promise to myself. Hey, Lauren, I made a promise to myself, and that was, you know, I will only stay in a relationship because of peace. And I remember saying, you know, I wish this was a lesson that everyone could learn without having to go through the pain of the experience, which is probably why I'm here with this message today. So are you going to get in disagreements? Oh, yeah. Are you going to see from different perspectives? Oh, yeah. Are you going to feel hurt in a relationship? No question. All those things happen. But how do we get through it? Well, the first principle to understand is that your ego is going to get hurt. Like your lower self, the thoughts in your mind, your past experiences, they're going to be associated with pain. So know that your ego is going to feel pain. It actually, hey, Mark, is stuck on that pain. And as long as we're in our ego, then we're going to stay immersed in the pain, which will never change our perspective. We can never find the gift. So if you feel emotional pain, then you know this is a job of the heart. So we have to move from our mind to our heart. And this is what the 5 steps are going to do. Help you move from your mind to your heart, because to solve that problem is a heart problem. It's not a mind or an ego problem. So when we have the discipline and we develop the core values and we have this tool and the skills that over time we can move from mind to heart, then you can move through challenges in our relationship. We can evolve. We can learn to love and respect ourselves, which means then we can learn to love and respect another, which can eventually transfer into oneness in all humanity. Now we change the consciousness of all humanity. How cool is that? So we know this is really a job of the heart. So the really thing is to find a gift. Now, before I get into these, one sec, I want to take a quote from Catherine Ponder. She's a Christian minister, wrote the Dynamic Laws of Prosperity. Whatever problem you have is but a test of love. If you meet that test through love, your problem will be solved. That's why all challenges are problems of the heart, not of the mind. They're not problems of the ego, they're problems of the heart, right? So if you don't meet that test with love, then your problem's going to continue. If you do, then that problem is solved, right? So every challenge is an initiation in love. Man, imagine if we look at our life through that. And this is something that, again, it's a lesson I wish everybody could learn without going through experience. Probably the reason I had to go through that is this is why I'm here. I've had 2 relationships where I really wanted to marry that person. I loved their kids. They loved me, but we didn't have peace. And it's so hard because there comes that defining moment when you say, who am I? And I have to go back to that promise and say, this is what I promised. And we give each other opportunities to move through that, but time after time after time after time, it becomes a pattern. And then it's like, I can't do that. And here's the thing, the reason we repeat patterns, hey, David, is because we didn't call that lesson complete. And so when you don't call and complete, we think we've learned lessons, but we never completed them. We didn't call it complete. And so what we do is we subconsciously, we're still on the learning process. And that means if you didn't call it complete, the pain is going to continue and you can't evolve to the next level of consciousness. Hey, Aaron. So, thank you all of you guys for joining. So let's raise the consciousness. Let's solve our problems with our heart and not with our mind and our ego. How about that? So here's 5 steps. How many steps? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to release the pain. This is what I learned by watching not only my wife take her last breath, but writing the book, You're More Powerful Than You Think. Step 1. Now, these are easy steps. They're only as hard as you make them. How about that? There's the challenge. Step 1 is you have to stop in the moment. In the minute you're in a heated argument, right? You could be raising your voice. Hey, I'm Italian. I have this deep voice. So, when I get all pissed. Yeah, I learned to speak from my belly from martial arts. So my voice can get a little loud sometimes. So you have to stop in the moment. What's that mean? It means you're like, what am I experiencing right now? Am I in love? Am I in pain? Am I be driven by my ego? How do I move my heart? And you literally stop. Sometimes if you're on the phone, it could be hang up the phone, dialing again, calling right back. And in a second, you stop in the moment. Now, every time you come into presence and you pattern, not only do you pattern interrupt yourself, but you wire your brain for compassion, which means the more that you do this, hey, June, hey, Sandy, the more that you do this, the more you're wiring your brain from love to move from your heart, from your mind to your heart, and then you're wiring your brain to be associated with your heart. How cool is that? So we stop in the moment, and then we ask ourselves a question. Is it possible that my perception, whatever I'm perceiving, could be related to a past experience. What's that mean? Is it possible that there's a trigger in me of why I'm upset and hurt? And what's that answer always going to be? Yes. That answer is always yes. Otherwise, you wouldn't be reacting that way. It's like, hey, don't push my buttons. Well, guess what? If there wasn't a button, there wouldn't be anything to push. So let's take responsibility for our buttons. So we stop in the moment, ask yourself the question, is this possible it's related to a past experience? And that answer is always going to be yes, right? And then what do? Then you breathe. Oh my God, breathe deeply, feel your body, because when you breathe, then you interrupt your mind. You interrupt your mind. Hey, Tim. Hey, Roxanne. We interrupt our mind, and then we feel our body. When you feel your body, you get out of your mind. Then we establish a higher conscious. So when you breathe, everybody breathe with me right now. Feel love filling your body. Okay, we know what this feels like because we've experienced love before. Feel love in your body. Now what did we do? We just got into a higher consciousness, moved from our mind to our heart. We're feeling our body. We're feeling love in our body. Now all of a sudden, where's the pain? It's gone. Where's the ego? It's gone. What am I experiencing? I'm experiencing love. How am I looking at my partner? Now I'm looking at them through loving eyes. Do I want to argue? No. Am I open to see from a new perspective? Yes. And this is how we pattern interrupt ourselves. So 1, stop in the moment. 2, is it possible it's related to a past experience? Take responsibility that you created that meaning. Breathe deeply, feel your body, get into a higher conscious, put your state into a state of love, and then ask a question. So if someone did something or said something, then you're going to go, okay, let me ask a question. What were you thinking? I just want to know hey, Roy, what were you thinking? Because it doesn't matter what somebody does. It matters why they do it. When you understand why they do it, then you can see the emotional pattern. So when you have a belief system that this person that I'm in a loving relationship with would not intentionally do something to hurt me, right? And I eliminate my trigger, hey, Jeremy, then all of a sudden it's like, let me just try and understand. So what were you thinking? And they could tell you what you're thinking. You're going, okay, now that you say it, do you realize that, hey, there's no logical sense in that, right? And there actually makes no sense. And when we do this and we actually articulate what were we thinking in the moment, then we realize, shoot, now that I say that, that's really ridiculous. But guess what? Once you understand that emotional patterns have no logic, right? Emotional patterns have no logic. So once you repeat it, then you realize, shit, that's an emotional pattern. There's no freaking logic, barely even makes sense to me. Seemed to make sense at the time, but now that I look back, what the hell was I thinking, right? Or maybe your partner does that, and it's okay to say, okay, what do you think about that now? Do you see how that might have been a little bit off? And now what happens is then you find humor in things, hey, Rick, hey, Paul, in things that you are arguing about. So you move from hurt into humor. And now it's like, oh my God, that's so ridiculous. And then you realize what we are arguing about becomes so small, right? And in the big picture of life, here's the thing. We're eternal. We come into this body, but this body has a finite amount of time, man. We have a limited amount of time of minutes in this body. So the question is, how do you want to spend those minutes? I had to watch my wife take her last breath to realize I want to spend them in love, right? And I'm committed to spending as many of those finite moments in love as possible. And that changes you from the inside out, Harvin. So once you ask the question, 1, what were you thinking? Okay, we don't care what you did. I want to know why you did it. Then we say, what purpose does this experience, what purpose is this giving or teaching me? What lesson am I learning about myself and maybe about your partner? The next thing is, and the lesson is, how do you return to love in yourself and how do you return to love others? The next question is, how does this move you closer to your soul purpose. So what lesson is that? How is this moving me closer to my soul purpose? And we all have one purpose. Our first purpose is what? Mastering ourself, moving from our humanity into our divinity. So how does this move me closer, not only into loving myself and loving others, but mastering myself and moving me closer into my purpose? And another question could be, how does this help me express my higher, more loving self? So if that experience can help me express a more loving self, that's the vehicle that we master ourselves. So here's the deal, gang. 5 steps. Ready? Stop in the moment. Become mindful. Number 2, is it possible that it's related to a past experience? That answer is always yes. Number 3, breathe deeply. Feel your body. Move from your mind and your heart into your body. Number 4, establish a higher conscious. Higher conscious is always unconditional love for yourself and for that person. Then 3, ask questions. Be open to seeing from a new perspective. Be more curious to understand than be understood. Be more curious to understand than be understood. In that way, you become more open, not only to a new perspective, but moving from your mind into your heart. And then ask those questions, obviously, right? So please use these 5 steps in your life. This is such a powerful tool. This will change how you, hey Rez, this will change how you view yourself, how you view others. It will wire you from compassion. It'll help give you a tool and a skill to take that 18-inch journey, the most important journey of our life, why we're here as a spiritual being in a human body, to raise the consciousness of humanity, that 18-inch journey from mind to heart. Okay, you guys, love you. And hopefully that our experiences with each other, that we can share these and we can help each other attain a higher consciousness. All right, love you guys. See you next week.